Hello and welcome back to part 2 of chapter 11. We just finished up the distributive property and we are now on page 3 of your notes, and we will come back to the distributive property shortly as we need to talk about something else first, and then hopefully we can fit everything together. So you're on this page, top of page 3 like I said, and it says blank and an expression are separated by addition signs. Those are terms. Now I could add in here addition or subtraction. So addition or subtraction, because remember we learned that you can always take subtraction and turn it into addition. So I don't want to be too deceiving here that I like to think in terms of addition, but it could be a subtraction sign like this expression below. It says list the terms in this expression. 4a minus 2b plus 3c plus negative 2. So the terms in this are basically all of the things that are separated by a plus or minus sign. And they are this. 4a is a term. Now notice for this one we call it minus 2b. So we're really thinking in terms of addition plus negative. Remember how I could change that? So that term is really negative 2b. And then 3c is a term and negative 2 is a term. So those are terms, and that's a word that you need to know when we say term separated by a plus or minus sign there. So, and do notice as well that it can be a constant number like that. That is a term in that expression there. So here's what we run into when we have something like this, like number 1, 3 parenthesis 2a plus b. Well, here's one of the things that you need to know about algebra and pre-algebra. Okay, and it's actually coming a little bit later in your notes, but you need to understand right now that you cannot add terms with different variables. You can't do that because if you don't know what the variable value is, you can't add them together. Like in this expression here, this is 3 times 2a plus b. Since we don't know what 2a plus b is, well, you can't say that 2a plus b equals 2ab, like right here. I'll write it. Don't write this down, but just watch. 2a plus b does not equal 2ab, and that's a common mistake. Yeah, don't do that, because this one on the left means that it's 2, whatever 2a is, and then you add b. This one means you multiply 2a times b. So those are very different problems, even though they look the same. So don't make that error right there. There's nothing you can do to this 2a and this b because they're different terms. They have different variables. Okay, but we can simplify this. There is something we can do that has to do with the distributive property that we learned at the end of the last video. What I can do is I can take this 3 and I can actually multiply that 3 times 2a. And I can say 3 times 2a is 6a. That you can do. And I can say, bring this plus sign down if I use the distributive property. And I can say 3 times b. Now remember that b, it's kind of like 1b. 3 times 1 would be 3b. Okay. So it's kind of like it's saying you have 3 groups of 2a plus b. You can think of it like this. You can think of it as like you have 2a plus b. You have 2a plus b. You have 2a plus b. All right. You have that 3 times. See what I'm saying here? You have 1, 2, 3. This number on the outside is telling you how many 2a plus b's you have. So think about it. How many, this says you have 2 a's. Okay, there's 2 a's. This says you have 2 a's. So how many do you have here? You got 1, 2, 3, 4. And you got 2 more. So you have a total of 6 a's. Here you've got 1b and 1b and 1b. You've got a total of 3b. That's what's happening here with the distributive property. Okay, if we look at number 2, where we have negative 4 out here, that means the negative 4 is going to be multiplied by this. Okay. Now remember what we learned, a negative times a negative is a positive 12, and don't forget that variable. Now with this subtraction, I like to think of that as plus negative. Remember changing subtraction because I'm taking now negative 4 times negative 2 and making that positive 8. There. And that is this one simplified. And I forgot to mention up here, number 1, that that is the answer. That is the most simple you can make this expression here. You cannot add that 6a and 3b together. Don't make that mistake of making it, I don't know, 8ab. Don't do that. Nope. That's the answer right there. It's as far as you can go with both of these. Okay, that's the distributive property using simplifying. So the key there is that you do not make the mistake of adding unlike terms together. Major no-no for pre-algebra and algebra is adding those terms, unlike terms, that is. All right. So here we go with the next page, bottom of page 4 here. So considering that distributive property, we can also do that backwards. Okay, and that's basically called factoring. Okay, now this is we're going to try to keep this really simple and don't get too hung up on this if it's we're getting into some deeper abstract things here, and just kind of get a taste of it and see if you can work through it as I work through it with you. But basically factoring is doing the backwards version of what I just did. All right. The second bullet says that in order to factor an expression, we're going to begin by finding the greatest common factor in all the terms, and you can check factoring by using what's called the distributive property here. So it's probably easiest if I just show you an example here. Let's take a look at number 1 here. Take a look at number 1. It says 6x minus 12. Well, remember, we can't add 6x to 12 because those terms are different. We talked about in the previous slide. But what we can do is we can ask ourselves, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, I'm thinking, is there a number that goes into 6, I'll say number that goes into 6 and 12? Is there a number that goes into 6 and 12? And we want the biggest one we can find. And we would say 6. Okay, so what I can do with this, right, I can think, well, if I take 6x minus 12, I'm going to divide both of them by 6. Okay, now that is the greatest common factor. Okay, so the previous slide said find the greatest common factor. So if I take 6x divided by 6, okay, that would give me, I'm going to put a parentheses here and I'll explain why I'm doing that. That would give me 1x minus 12 divided by 6 is 2. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to take this greatest common factor, I'm going to put it on the outside, 6, right there. Okay, so notice what I have right now is 6 parenthesis 1x minus 2, and that's factored form. That basically is my answer here. That's factored. Okay, so what I did was I took this 6x minus 12, I found the greatest common factor, and I put the greatest common factor right here, the GCF. And then I divided it out of the original problem. So let me show you. You want to see how easy this is to check as I try to say, let me change colors here to, how about, I don't know, let's see, how's green show up on this? That's all right. There. So you want to check your answer here to see if it's factored right. If you distribute this back, 6 times 1 is 6x, 6 times 2 is 12, and you bring down that minus sign, that is your check. So you're happy because that shows that you got it right. But the question said to factor it. So this here, this is the actual factored form, 6 times parenthesis x minus 2. Right there. Let's try the same thing for number 3. That one might look bigger and scarier, but we're going to do the same thing. We've got 3 numbers here. We've got 3, 6, and 9. So we want to find the greatest common factor of 3, 6, 9. And the greatest common factor of 3, 6, and 9 is 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide all of those numbers by 3. Okay, this number here, this number here, and this number here. And I'm going to write 3 on the outside, put a parenthesis there, and I'm going to go 3 divided by 3 is 1, x, that came from here, and then minus sign from right there. 6 divided by 3 is 2, don't forget the y, plus 9 divided by 3 is 3. And there it is. This is factored form. Okay, I am running a little bit long on my time here, so I'm going to pause this on number 2, and in just a moment, I'll come right back and we will pick up right here after number 2 and review factoring for you.